Hey everyone, this is Doug from the Lead Pursuit Podcast. Tonight I'm bringing you your unboxing of the Kawanishi H8k Emily. So this is the flying boat, the special limited edition aircraft that you get when you buy Combined Arms and one of the bundles, whether Combined Arms with Blood Red Skies, Bolt Action, or the Victory at Sea Pacific Starter. So you're not able to buy this in the stores. That's also why it's got a Warlord reinforcement box and not a printed fancy box art kind of box. But this is an aircraft that you could use in a variety of Pacific themed games, and we'll break it out here in just a second. So let's see what we've got inside the box. All right, so obviously one resin airplane, one flight stand, and the infamous Sabo large base for the flight stands, along with the little widget that goes on there. We'll talk about that here in a second. You've got your cards, you've got your pilot discs, boom chits, all that generic standard fare that you get with any airplane that's out there. So inside the plastic, inside the bubble wrap, that is the H8k Emily. You can see it's already in a couple different parts, but let's talk through the cards first and what we get there. So we'll pull out the card pack and let's see who packed it for us. It was done by none other than Ronnie S. Thank you, Ronnie S. Appreciate that. You packed all of our gear together correctly. Japanese decals. Not too fancy. No numbers, no additional information on there, but it does give you a good set of Japanese rising sun, red star or red circles to put on there. And it's the standard one that you get for a variety of other Warlord Games gear. Couple different cards. You've got a doctrine card, you've got an equipment card, and you've got a trait card. So we'll come back to those and what they are in a second. And then you also have the aircraft card. So what all of you probably care about here is the H8k Emily, classed as a 4-engine bomber. We'll talk about that. That's kind of interesting. Firepower, no forward firepower, 0 maneuverability, speed 6, 290 miles per hour for its actual speed in case you need it for a tiebreaker. Traits. Now here's where it gets interesting. 4-engine bomber, flying boat. Okay. We'll talk about that. Robust, multi-engine 4, obviously with 4 engines. And then turret with a 360-degree firepower of 2 and a rear firepower of 1. So that'll be a little bit of a threat out there to other aircraft that are trying to shoot it down. Of course, because it is classed as a 4-engine bomber, you'll notice no points there, 1942 year of use, and your nice little historical summary there. But remember this, it's classed as a bomber. So as you start trying to use it for other missions, you're going to have to use some add-ons, such as, drum roll please, torpedo shackles. What is this? Well, this is how you take a bomber and you turn it into a torpedo bomber. So any bomber designated as carrying torpedo shackles gain the torpedo bomber designation. Allows you to change your H8k Emily from a regular bombing aircraft into a torpedo bombing aircraft. That's free, by the way. So it's a pretty good change there for something that is already a bomber, not like bomb shackles, which takes a fighter and turns it into a bomber. So we talked about the trait card, robust, that obviously matches the trait of the H8k there, but more importantly, a new doctrine card. So one of your standard little doctrine cards there, hug the deck. If you haven't seen this one before, this is pretty cool. So whenever you have a disadvantaged friendly aircraft being shot at, you play this card. Then the shooting aircraft that is attacking you must pass a maneuver test before being able to successfully make that attack, or they lose an advantage level. But there's a trade-off. The defending aircraft may not dodge the attack. Well, in this case, it doesn't really matter because a disadvantaged bomber can't dodge. That's part of the multi-engine rules. But this is actually still good because what it allows you to do is just force the enemy, pass a maneuver test before they can make that attack. If they fail, then they lose that advantage level. Now, once again, that doesn't necessarily help because as a multi-engine bomber, you can be shot at from any advantage level. So it's not going to prevent a shot, but it's just going to cause that aircraft that's shooting you to now be more disadvantaged. And maybe your turret at that point will do enough damage to knock them down from their loss of advantage position to a position where they are in the water, swimming. All right, so let's talk about the model itself. Breaking this out here. Let's see. Who was it packed by? It was packed by none other than Alicia. So thank you, Alicia, for packing our model lovingly in the plastic wrap. Let's see what we've got. A couple wings. Should be some sponsons in here. And a tailplane assembly and one more sponson trying to hide in there. There we go. All right, let's get all of this junk out of the way and talk about the model. In case you can't figure it out, it's made out of Warlord resin. Looks like it was obviously cast at 2 different times on some of these things, but it is pretty good detail, pretty nicely rendered model overall, obviously coming from a pretty good 3D rendering that they did out there. Really nice detail, nice turret details, the observation blisters, the panel lines in it all look nice. So I think just at first blush, it's a really nice model. And it's got a fair amount of detail. Those cabin windows are going to drive me nuts because they're all the faceted windows. I will lose my mind painting that. But then you've got obviously the 2 wings that have their top side and their underside, and you can see how they slot in there. And then the slots for the sponsons to slide right in once you trim the flash. And there's a little bit of flash on the model, not a big deal. You can see a lot of it on the tailplane assembly here, the horizontal stabilizer, lots of flash there, not a big deal. That will just slot right in there. Trim the flash, glue that in place, and make sure it actually has a fair amount of slop in there, so make sure you glue it in at the correct angle and it gets held that way. Speaking of gluing, obviously the wings would glue on, and they've got some pretty large attachment blocks here, but something to think about is the way these wings go together. They've got a little bit of a tab there, but that's not a whole lot of structure to hold those wings together, even with super glue. So I think when I assemble this, I'm going to end up trimming the wing areas down a little bit, putting a pin on both sides, and then gluing the wings together. And if you don't want to glue the wings together, then obviously you can just pin them and have it assemble. No one's going to judge you for a little bit of a gap there that isn't filled with putty or whatever. And you can see there's just a couple more minor areas you'll have to trim to get the wings to actually fit in and slot in perfectly. But overall, it's a really nice model. I think it's a nice cast, and I think it will look really nice on the table, especially as the centerpiece of either search and rescue mission or some kind of torpedo run attack, or whatever you're doing with this big lumbering H8k. I wish I could say it had a great combat record, but I would be lying. But it's a really neat airplane. Now, one important detail to notice, and we'll see if we can get it here with the lighting. If you notice, there's just a single round pinhole here. There is not a recessed advantage stand like there was in the Catalina frame for the previous limited edition model. I don't know why. Seems kind of strange because it was really nice for the Catalina. You would just slot the standard advantage stand all the way in and it would hold it nicely on the stand. The H8k does no such thing. So I don't know if that was a design oversight, if it was just too darn heavy, but what it means is you will just have to use the large pin they have if you want to, and you can glue that to the bottom of the aircraft, and then of course your advantage stand can slot in on top of that. I don't like that answer either. I think I will probably end up putting a magnetic ball in there or a magnet on the end of that and figuring out how to slot it together that way. Because once again, this widget here is not really designed for blood red skies airplanes to smoothly fit on a base. It was mostly designed for the Zvezda models. It worked pretty well on those. But if you already have a hole that's on the bottom of the base and not just a small little pinhole marking, it doesn't necessarily fit as well. So there you go. There is your airplane, your H8k. We'll get this thing glued together, painted up, and ready to go. And there's all your cards. So once again, you've got your airplane card, equipment card, trait card, doctrine card, some decals, and then the rest of your generic pilot discs, boom chits, and zoom chits. So thank you for watching. Please like and subscribe to our videos, and we'll have more unboxings to come in the next few days.